Okay, so hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Fall Global. This is where we connect with global first entrepreneurs and remote work experts from all around the world. So, our guest today is Yan Gelman, a senior global HR leader. Jan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Vit. Very happy to be here. Very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jan, it is fantastic to have you on the show. And before we delve into this global hiring HR, maybe you can tell us a bit more about your journey in the HR space. Maybe highlighting some key milestones from your impressive 2-decade career in human resources.
Sure, Vit. So, first of all, I have to tell you, as they say, I'm not a regular, I'm a cool HR leader. So, I started my HR career in accounting, actually. So, I started in accounting. My whole career has been, my first 12 to 15 years of my career have been in accounting and finance. And I made a slow transition to HR, very gradual, because I realized that I can make a much greater impact helping people. And so in my HR trajectory in my career, so I've done a lot of different things working for emerging companies, local here in the US and global across the world, helping them grow HR functions from zero to one to many. And while helping the companies grow from $0 in revenue to 500 million in revenue plus. And I was very fortunate to work in different emerging companies across different industries. So I worked in consumer products, fintech, big data, just to name a few. And the one thing that kind of united all those companies, the one underlying theme was growing emerging companies with exciting products and exciting growth trajectories. So, and that's what brings me to today.
Sounds good. And given your background, like in both HR and finance, particularly your role as a head of people at Instaworks, Spokio, right, and this prior finance responsibilities at like a number of companies like Resident, right? So how do you see the synergy between HR and financial strategies in achieving like a organizational goals, especially in the tech space? Can you talk more about this?
Of course, yes. So many, if you listen to a lot of people online, they tell you that finance and HR always butt heads about what needs to be done, and HR is always asking for more money to grow to grow the workforce, to develop people, to send people to conference and trainings and whatnot. But in reality, finance and HR have to work together because the reality is we have a common goal. We're trying to bring people and companies to be their best selves. And that's what our interest is on both sides. And once we realize that our interests are aligned, it's a lot easier to work with us. So for me, particularly somebody who has, an MBA and a lot of experience in finance and accounting, I really believe that things like budgeting and smart growth are very, very important, right? You don't want to overhire. You don't want to hire ahead of the curve. You don't want to end up with people, which some companies are doing that because hiring is challenging sometimes, and they try to hire as many people as they can, and then they end up with a workforce that's only utilized, 48% of the time. You're wasting 52% of your resources. So we can't do that. So it's very important to work with your finance leaders, with your CEOs, and with HR together to figure out what it is that you really are trying to accomplish. And you need to understand that every investment you make, whether it's in people, headcount, facilities, anything, has to bring you some kind of return on investment. And that ROI is very important. In my business, unfortunately, it's very difficult to prove your ROI because it takes time, right? So I'm attending this big HR conference next month, and what's the ROI on that? The time will tell. But things like that, I mean, to me, it's an investment, and I try to convince finance and budgeting people that it is an investment for the people as well. So just keep that in mind. Always think what the ROI is, and you'll do great things in any vertical, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, at Finlink, I guess, and Instawork, you play this pivotal role in supporting hyper growth in building this high functioning HR departments from scratch, as far as I understood. So, can you share maybe some key insights into managing global human resources operations across different regions, such as the United States, Singapore, the United Kingdom, and the European Union? So, as far as an institute, you have like experience working with all those locations, right?
Sure. So, well, the first thing I learned bit is that if you have employees in Singapore, in the European Union, and the US, there's absolutely zero time that works for everyone to do an all hands meeting. It just doesn't work because somebody will have to get up at 5 in the morning or stay up until 3 in the morning to get this done. And so, what became really important to us is the importance of asynchronous work. So, trying to do things on your own time, adhering to global deadlines, respecting each other's privacy and respecting each other's time, and trying to work within those parameters, within those constraints. At first, it was really challenging. And the challenge that you experience is not that people don't want to work. People want to do their job and they want to continue working as well and as hard as they normally work. Because the challenge is the true challenge is that people really feel disconnected from one another. That's why we're on this podcast and you're listening to me talk live, right? Otherwise, I could just record my piece and you listen to it separately, and then it doesn't work because not the conversation, the connection, the relations are gone. And so what we try to do is we try to be intentional about culture. I'm very big on this. So I strongly believe that like some companies just feel a culture will happen if they hire good people. Well, nothing happens on its own. Everything happens intentionally. You have to, I don't want to say force it to happen, but you have to at least guide it in the right direction. And so what we try to do is we try to get people from different regions to work together, whether it's asynchronously or get on the actual call is what we try to get them to do. So I try to encourage all of our leaders to do cross-functional, cross-geographic meetings and projects across the entire globe. And that was great. And if you had to work with an engineer in Singapore and a salesperson in the UK, and that's a real example, and you're based, like I'm based in San Francisco, so you're based here, you have to figure it out. And you talk to one of them and you talk to another one of them, and each of you makes concessions about when you're going to meet and how you're going to do it. But you create this global camaraderie that would never exist otherwise. You can't just get those people to come in for a donut downstairs in the break room, right? Because there's no break room and there's no donuts. So it's tougher. It's tougher to do that, and you have to try to do this. So when we had a little bit more money at Resident, we rewarded people with trips to the headquarters or international trips. So for people from Israel, for example, to come to New York, or for me to go to Israel at that time, was a huge incentive, right? I mean, it's an investment of time and money on the part of everybody, but it's a huge incentive. You go in and you meet people and you interact with people and you realize it's not just Vit on the other side of the screen, it's a real person. And I always tell people it's a lot harder to be mean to somebody if you've met them and you shared a drink with them or a coffee with them or just kind of shook their hand. And what that does for your culture and for your organization is immeasurable. And this is what we're trying to, that's what I always preach. The investment in a very expensive airplane ticket and some hotel nights will pay off dramatically once those people work together, and you'll see the productivity increase. You'll see the results, and you'll see the camaraderie which every company should aspire to get.
Yeah, but speaking about the communication part, right? Let's go a bit deeper there. So, what strategies have you employed to ensure this effective remote communication? I get it, like this on-site meetings are great in terms of culture, but like 99% of the time they spend like remotely if you're talking about global companies, right? So maybe you can
Yes.
tell us more about some practical like tactics or something that can help us to ensure this effective communication in this distributed companies.
Sure, Vit. Great question. So I would say that My number one rule is when in doubt, communicate. And if you're still doubting it, over communicate. If you think that it might not be important to you, it's important to somebody. So it could be anything. It could be formal or informal, and both of those are very important. So yes, it's very important to get, quote unquote, a press release from your CEO, or having your CEO tell you that the team in Israel did wonderful things. But if you have somebody that you want to recognize and you're not sure if you should, do it. If you're not sure if it's important that your team in India, increase their response rate by 12%, do it. Somebody's going to appreciate it. Somebody's going to know it, and it's going to bring people together. So we always communicate just about everything, whatever you can think of. It's important to somebody. Somebody is going to read this. Somebody's going to appreciate it. It's going to bring them closer. What we also did specifically is we introduced values awards. So we had our company values, whatever those values may be, and we recognized people across the organization, across the globe, with these awards. The most important thing, and the one thing I learned later in my career, is that the award itself is irrelevant. It could be a $10 Amazon gift card. It could be a piece of company swag. At the company Bettable, where I used to work, we used to give out pins, an actual pin that you stick to your hat or your shirt that's worth about 55 cents. People valued those things like you wouldn't believe. They collected them, they displayed them proudly, and it's something they brought us all together. So we, as the people team, were very intentional about how those awards were given out. So they were given out for exhibiting specific company values, which is also very important, right? Because you can't really reward one thing and hope that another thing's going to happen. You need to reward the behavior that you want people to exhibit. And so if it was, so one of our values at Bettable was customers are our North Star. And so customer is everything. And so when somebody exhibited that that particular value, we gave them a special award with a little North Star on it, a little pin, and we recognized them in a meeting. It accomplished so many things. First of all, it showed people that they're valued. It showed others what it means at our company to be valued and successful. And it also introduced you to a person that you may never have worked with before. And when you do that, that's how you intentionally create culture. That's how you intentionally continue building and strengthening culture. So that's just one example.
Yeah, and also in your like various roles, you have implemented this paid transparency and diversity initiatives in hiring, right? So, and I'm just
Yes.
curious, can you talk more about this? How have these initiatives impacted employee engagement?
Sure. Well, so those are two different initiatives, and so I'm going to start with pay transparency first, and then get to diversity inclusion. So pay transparency is now the law in several states in the United States, including California, where I live. And so what that means is that every job listing must list a salary range, right? It's a very loosey goosey kind of rule at this point, because they don't define what the range could be. So you could find a cop out and say the range is $10 to $10 million a year, and that way you would really comply with the law. But our job is not to comply with the law. I feel like our job is really to follow not just the letter of the law, but the intent of the law. And so what it does is bring people some kind of leveling the playing field is what they're trying to do. The same thing for pay transparency and diversity and inclusion. You're trying to create situations, equal playing field for people who are potentially not as good as negotiating as others, or people who are from the marginalized communities who've never experienced negotiations, who are terrified of asking for more money because they don't know what more money is. And this is very different for people, and it always created a disparity. So here in the United States, for example, car buying is an interesting situation, because car buying is that industry is lagging every other industry by 50 or 60 years, because you can't buy a car directly from a manufacturer like you could do any other product. You have to buy it from a dealer. And for dozens of years, what dealers did was use their information that they had and the customer didn't to their advantage to, well, to really take advantage of the customers. And all of a sudden, all these companies like TrueCar, for example, showed up that really showed all the information about car buying. And they showed how much a dealer paid for the car, what incentives they might be getting, what other perks or what other things you could ask for. And car dealers were terrified because their advantage was taken away. Because, as you know, in a negotiation, information is the most important component. And so, pay transparency is the law. Pay transparency laws are doing precisely that. They're trying to create this, or eliminate rather, this information imbalance between the employers and the employees to level the playing field. And I think it's fantastic. And of course, there's a lot of work to do in pay transparency because the law only requires you to show the base salary. And as we know, the total compensation package includes stock options and bonuses and vacation time and additional perks and fringe benefits. So there's a lot of work to be done, but it's a great start. And I think that's what it's doing. And that's what it's doing for the employees and the employee engagement. On the diversity and inclusion side, so what I'm doing, or what I believe in, again, you're trying to level a playing field, and in this case, you're also trying to expand the pie. You're trying to make your job opening available to more people, not just the people that normally apply for your job, but people who may not potentially even see your job application or your job posting. And that's that's what diversity and inclusion initiatives do. And again, just like I said with everything else, you have to be intentional about it. You can't just create a job listing, post it on LinkedIn, and say everyone's welcome to apply. We're an equal opportunity employer. It's a necessary but not sufficient to really build diversity. So what I always encourage people to do is to think about building diverse pipelines. What does that mean? You have to look for diverse candidates where they're not looking for you. And so I encourage, for example, so in my last company, so what I did, we used to go to organizations like Black Girls Code and Lesbians in Tech, and you go to professional, development organizations for, I mean, there are organizations for just about everyone, right? If they found one for overweight accountants, I would go join that too, but it's not quite there. So, you're looking for organizations that you can find, and they bring you diverse candidates. I also encourage people to go to colleges and universities that are diverse by their nature. And when you do that, you create this opportunity for people who may not even have seen your posting. And the more diverse candidates you get, the more diversity. So diversity begets more diversity. So they bring their friends, they bring their people, they bring other people, and they make each other feel comfortable, and they make each other feel welcome and included, and they feel like they belong in this organization. And that's the most important thing. And this is what it does for, and this creates engagement that nobody can create otherwise. So this engagement is created almost organically by growing this pipeline, by growing all the diverse people. And imagine how many different opinions and how many different people you bring into the company. And now you have, instead of having people who look exactly like you or like me, you have people that from all different walks of life with different opinions, different suggestions, different great ideas, and different requirements. And they help you grow and they help the company grow. And that's the most amazing thing to me.
100%. Um, on I guess on your LinkedIn, you mentioned that at your last organization at Spokio, you reduced time to hire significantly. That's one of your achievements, right? And you also improved the employee satisfaction rate. Uh, so I'm just curious, can you talk more about this? What strategies did you employ to achieve these outcomes?
Well, that's a secret bit. I'm not going to tell you. No, no, I'm kidding. I'm really happy to share this because I always that's always top of mind for me. And so to improve employee satisfaction, so what we do, and that's just not just at Spokio, but at all the other companies. So you really need to understand. So you can't improve something you don't understand. And so the first thing we do is we try to understand what it is that drives our employees, what it is that makes them excited, and what gets them excited about our company, and what would get them more excited. So the first thing you do is you create a very comprehensive and very intentional engagement survey to try to understand where you stand, right? You try to understand what your current position is, and you try to understand where you're lacking. You try to benchmark yourself against other companies, against different industries, and you look at this data. You also look at the exit information, exit surveys, exit interviews, and you see what people are telling you why they're leaving. Are they leaving because of their managers? Are they leaving because they're underpaid? Are they leaving because they're overworked? Is it all three of those, or is it more factors? And you try to intentionally fix the areas where you think are problematic. And that's how we're able to improve employee satisfaction, right? So you look at things, you have to listen to people. And so we do it by many different ways. So we do it formally through surveys. And I do what when I went to business school, what they used to call management by walking around. And now you can't really walk around because people are distributed, but I walk around either virtually or travel as much as I can. And I ask people what's going on. You build trust with people and you have them, because it's very difficult for somebody to come to your VP of HR and start griping to them about everything under the sun. So you have to build the relationship where people feel comfortable telling you what's going on in the company. That's the only way you learn the truth. So you can look at it, you can try to find it yourself, you can ask questions. But the important thing, people are not going to tell you anything if they feel that it goes into one ear and out of the other, right? So what you need to do is you need to show true results. And you need to tell people, we hear you, we understand you, and these are the concrete, specific steps we're going to take to make this better. We've taken your feedback to heart and we're working on it. They don't expect results the next week, but you need to show people that you're committed to doing this. And so when you do that, so then we started applying for, once we realized that we were building culture and we're creating very satisfied employees. Our employee satisfaction was in the 90th percentile, which is, I'm very proud of that. And so we looked at it, but we never kind of rested on our laurels. We always said, well, it's 91%. Why is it not 93%? How do we get to 100? And so we really tried to see if there's a marginal improvement that we could make at any time. And so at Spokio, we won a lot of awards from Comparably. So a company that gave us awards for best perks and best compensation and best work-life balance and things like that. Of course, we're not the best. It was one of the 50 companies in our company size, in our company, in our industry that did that, but it was still a very, very prestigious award to win, and we were very excited to be recognized for that. And we used that as a recruiting tool. And even if our potential candidates didn't see that, we promoted that on our website. Hey, we have the best perks. We're the best company. And people see this. And if you allow me one story, that so many years ago, I interviewed with a magazine, with an art magazine in New York for a job. And I came in and they really tried to get me, and we agreed on everything. And I insisted on visiting the office. And I came into the office for the first time, and people looked absolutely miserable. And they were just sad, and it looked like they were overworked and they were scared of everything. And I just got a really terrible feeling from this. And I'm like, ooh, that's a big red flag. And then I kept talking to more and more people, and they were telling me, come join our company, but their eyes were saying, stay away. And I could see that. I could see that. And I declined the offer. I was ready to move to New York for this opportunity because it was a lot of money and everything. And I think I made the right choice. And which brings me to the point that your people are not just your biggest asset, they're your best salespeople. If they see people that they want to work with, that's how you get your talent. And so when people are passionate and excited about the company, and then people are passionate and excited about what they do, and they value the culture and they value their teammates, that's what brings more people to your company, and that's what helps you reduce time to hire. Other than all the regular statistics that anybody can tell you, you have to go to more sources and try to advertise more efficiently and create good job descriptions. All of that is true, and all of that shouldn't be ignored. But your people are your best salespeople and your best recruiters.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. So, with your this extensive experience working in different industries and niches, are there any like emerging trends or technologies that you believe will I guess significantly impact how companies approach HR in the coming years? Can you talk more about this? Maybe, yeah, that's a question about AI, but not maybe you have some other thoughts.
Well, AI is probably it, and that's what everybody's talking about it. So AI, and people are really concerned that AI is going to replace HR altogether, and you're just going to scan the resume into the system that your artificial intelligence will read through this and give you a 98.7% rating and say that you are going to be a successful employee, calculate your employee lifetime value, and spit it out. Well, I mean, they've been saying this for a while. When I started in accounting, people were really concerned about accounting software replacing accountants. And so the point that we got to is accounting software replaced bookkeepers. So there's a lot of, I mean, there are very basic bookkeeping tasks like data entry. You don't have to enter invoices anymore. You can scan it into QuickBooks or whatever. And I feel like in HR, the idea is the same. The best thing that we have as HR leaders is our own individual kind of people sense, right? Our ability to recognize and understand who people are. And AI, I don't think, at least at this stage, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in 100 years, but at this stage, I don't think it can replace that. And so AI is really helping us, right? Because we can tell people that we can create the software that looks through your resumes and looks for specific parameters. It says exclude any resume that has somebody who had 12 jobs in 3 months or something like that. Exclude people who don't have an MBA, which is not something I believe in, by the way, because I believe that at this day and age, education can come from any different source, right? I mean, you can get yourself educated through Coursera or General Assembly, where we used to hire people from, and these people may not have a degree, but they went through a 9 months extensive course. They aced it, and now they can be a programmer, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, who cares about all those letters after your name, right? It's just because my name says so. I passed an SPA, so I have SPHR as my certification. Does it mean that I'm better than anybody else in HR? No, it just means that I passed the test and I know the rules. But anybody, I mean, a lot of people can learn that. And so I feel like AI can help you weed some people out, and it really can help you figure out maybe the profile of your ideal candidate. But in reality, the human component of trying to figure out, can I work with this person? Does this person exhibit our values? That's something that's very inherent to a human component, and that's something that only human intelligence can do at this point. So in many companies, I used to be called the closer because I used to come in at the end of every interview, whether virtually or in person,
Hmm.
and try to sell the person on the company. And the one thing that people don't really know about me is I used to be a poker player. For many years, I was a pretty big poker player, and the most important thing is what people don't tell you about themselves, is what you can gather for what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about the tells. It's not like in the movies, somebody will touch their ear, that must mean they have a terrible hand. It's not like that, but you're really listening, and I mean, reading between the lines and listening between the sentences. What did they mean to say? What did they really say? What kind of words did they choose? And that's something that's very important. That's something that I don't think AI can ever replace. But new technologies are great because they save us a lot of time on the mundane routine tasks. And that's going to continue to happen, and that's going to be even better. I can't wait for the time when AI will file Form 5500 for you, and you don't have to worry about doing a tax. doing payroll taxes, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. So before we finish this episode, Jan, based on your like a journey and this evolving landscape of global HR, what advice would you offer to tech company leaders who are just considering global hiring expansion?
Well, so my advice is threefold. So number one, don't be afraid to hire people that live far away from you and don't look like you. Those people will help you. They work really hard. You need to work at it. You need to hire great leaders, but it doesn't matter where they are as long as they're doing great work. Number two, keep listening to your HR people. They're not just there to file forms. They're not just there to fire somebody when you're sick of them, but listen to them and try to get their advice. Give them a seat at the table if you don't do that yet. It's very important for your HR people to be on the leadership team because they are your leaders. They're the ones who hire your leaders, and they're the ones who hire people who make your leaders successful. So definitely always do that. And number three, keep learning because things keep happening. There are new trends, new requirements, new regulations, new technology. Never stop learning, whether it's HR or anything else that you do. And that's what I believe in. I go to every conference. I read thousands of articles all the time. I try to listen to people. I don't agree with people all the time, but I listen to different opinions. And that's how you learn and improve and stay current and stay relevant. So that's my advice.
Okay, I guess we're good. Thanks a lot, Jan, for sharing all your insights. We wish you all the best in your journey and future projects. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vit. It's been such a pleasure. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Good luck.